Well, collective, I hope y'all had a safe 4th of July. And that, it opened up a lot of windows and doors for a lot of independence to take place, in a more literal. I know some people see, in the 4th of July is just the day you do the fireworks and all the things, the cookouts and get the watermelon and all the things, and those are all great, but and spending that time with the people that really love you and that always pick you first. And and regardless if you even pick yourself first, I'll always pick myself first. And that's brought a lot of confusing things into, the way that shaped my reality, because it's, so backwards from, what I've seen. And eventually I had to realize, picking myself first, and the relationships I've had over time, just some of them made sense and some of them didn't. But more recently, I've come into contact with some individuals that that have that earth angel frequency, and in some way they have their own way of being part of the the 144,000. But the thing that that frustrates me the most is because each one of us out of that number, we do have each one of us has a very specific mission that only that one individual can do. And there was this thing, I don't know if it applies in regular law, or if it applies in but in military law, they called it the meeting of the minds, and I think it was something that wasn't condoned. But when you really think about how the collective consciousness works, everyone's already doing that at some point, And someone like myself who grew up, I had some very, it was probably about 3 years, I want to say about 3 years, 3 good years, maybe 2.5 good years in, the church community. And I needed that at that point in my life. And I was devastated when it all got stripped away from me because of choices my guardian made at the time. But I was very big on fellowship, whether or not most of those individuals you know, I didn't talk to a lot of them. I tried, but I was really big on fellowship though. And so when it comes to being earth angels, you know, I'm sure a lot of you out there have figured out by now that, you know, there's certain bloodlines that carry that, and I believe that, you know, there's generations of the ones that are in that, because it's not just the same ones, but it's the same souls just living out, you know, different different vessels. But when you put time travel in that, you know, there's just a lot of things, you know, that can happen, and I don't think that there are, you know, some of the other earth angels I've come across, I don't think that they're completely aware of how we do that, unconsciously and consciously, because of the deep level of empathy and, you know, the hearts that we have. And, you know, being that, you know, being an earth angel, it's, you know, really living in a divine purpose. And, you know, we work with God, not for God, but we work with God, and that's a different thing, because, you know, I used to have a mentality that I worked for God. And, you know, there are people that have God complexes that when you say you work for God, they will exploit the living crap out of you, and it doesn't matter how old you are. They will find ways, and that's really sad. And so when I come across individuals that I know have that frequency, I try to let them know. But, you know, because we all do our thing different, when we come across each other, there seems to be this disconnect and this, you know, throat chakra blockage that, you know, it really just ticks me off to no end. And I know that a lot of that is just me being in my feels about being a truth speaker, because that's not easy to do. And I don't think that one there's not a lot out there that do that one. I mean, we all kind of do and intermingle some energies that we can kind of, you know, absorb the energies of the other earth angels that are around us. But some of us got that truth speaking one, and there, when it comes to being a truth speaker, there are certain categories and certain subjects we speak truth to. And mine seem to be all kinds of different ones, but I try to keep it one track, because I don't want to, you know, confuse the other ones that may be truth speaking, and then in the collective, and then you know, the thoughts in our energy, I don't want it to be confused. I don't want them to get confused what they do, so I try to keep it as, you know, truth speaking to revealing the hidden truths inside, you know, the books of faith. And but you know, I believe that, you know, earth angels should be allowed to have fellowship with each other in the physical, without all that extra crap. But what happens is that because our bloodlines are tracked, and you know, the government does know the ones of us that are going to be, that have the souls that are in certain family nucleuses, and you know, that are gonna live out, you know, being one of the chosen. And you know, so there are moments, and there's signs and signals and synchronicities where those of us that deal with that, there is a level of training that we go through with the different government entities. Like when I first started out, and I started remote viewing, or realized I had that gift. I self-reported to the NSA because I was definitely scared, and I did not know how that was all going to go down. And just something inside me said, I ain't never talked to anybody in the NSA, but or knowingly, but I just felt like that was the right thing to do. And at some point that led into me training indirectly with the FBI. And the other things that have happened, throughout this whole situation, and the people I've met along the way. And then my training went from, and the FBI wanted me to really stay in there with them, and I was like, I didn't apply for that job, but the training had to be tracked because of the level of energy and frequency that happens, and it gets really scary. When someone's coming into realizing their spiritual gifts, and and the government knows that. I mean, this isn't something that's brand new. I mean, these are things that have just happened. They know that there are people that have those, that carry earth angel, vibrations in it. We can cause, depending on our thoughts and our thought energy, we can cause some damage. And which is why I've tried to be very relaxed and calm, because I know that if I was to switch to a negative frequency, things wouldn't be great for the people around me, and I don't want that for people, and because I wouldn't want that for me, because I've experienced that because of people's projections, because people did want that for me. And I just don't believe in being that way, with others. And so I have a big responsibility, like all the rest of us do. So we have to really be careful with our our emotions, our thoughts, and all that. And it kind of sucks, but ultimately, we become better people for it. But after the FBI training happened, there was a switch into, well, first it was NSA, and then Homeland Security kind of got in there, because I during the time I didn't know what was going on, so the NSA and Homeland Security were mainly the first two, and that led me, somehow getting on the frequency with Valerie Means. And then after that, there was then it led into things with the FBI, and then after that I went into some sort of training with the CIA, but and then I actually applied for a position with the CIA, having to do with military stuff, but I ultimately I didn't get that position, and so I just moved on. And then I, just throughout the whole process, I've been doing, living out, my purpose as as an evangelist, and just spreading the love of Jesus, just being present, and but when my frequency started raising, some people kept getting this false information, and making false assumptions, that I worked for the CIA, and I was like, nah, I didn't. I did training with them. That's different. But I did not work for them. And I don't work for them. I work with God, and that's above all. And it doesn't make me better than the CIA and all the other entities. It just I do what I do, but even they understand that there's a certain level of, like they get it, but there's some that didn't, and that really changed some things in their industry because of the things that I've done. And that's not me being boastful, that's just me giving myself credit, because I love myself and I want myself to get credit where it's due, because no one's going to love you more than you do, and I would love to give myself credit, and I give other people credit, and that's just something that I do, and it's not to be boastful, it's just to be, it's okay, because it came from God, and that helps spread the word, is God wants us to be in control of our lives and have command over our lives, and give ourselves credit and give each other credit, and that's part of that fellowship part. But whenever us earth angels go through these entities, because every single one of us has some kind of contact with one of those, the Homeland Security, the NSA, the FBI, the CIA, all these different behavioral, like just all these different things, and Department of Human Services, there are just things that happen during those trainings that once we come into knowledge of our powers, and then some of them kind of go stagnant, because we end up waiting, and then it becomes kind of like the military. We just sit around and wait, and that kind of sucks, and it's like it creates that complacency. And so then when we come into contact with other earth angels, there's these mixed signals of sorts, and then I can tell you from experience that working in my training, doing my self-work, self-development, under the guidance of these other government security agencies, it does create a level of trauma in a different way. It's not like we had bullets flying at us, but it was, some probably did, but myself, I didn't. But there's a level of there's a level of trauma that happens with that, and it's like we're earth angels because we know how to lead with our hearts, but then things happen, and then we get they really make us question ourselves and our truth, and like as if they're gonna use us for something, and I'm like, you can't use me for something, because God already created something for me, and you can't mess with that. And but they'll test that. They'll make you question yourself. And so because of the things going on in the energy field and the quantum field, there's and going forward, it's becoming heightened more. And so a lot of us earth angels are coming more into contact with each other, but it's like we don't know how to manage that or deal with that sometimes. And I've done some push some away, because I didn't really know what was going on, but it was mainly because there was some lustful energy behind it, and I don't condone that. So, but it's something that just happens. I think it's just part of that process, and you have to work past it. And then once it happens, it's like there's someone else coming in trying to threaten that, and they try to wear a mask to act as if they're also in that frequency, and they're not. And I've met a couple of those, and I've had to try to protect a group of individuals from those two individuals, because they wanted to get information on, they wanted to collect data on some other individuals that were at a location I was at, and ultimately, I got removed from that situation, but it put me in a predicament because there was two other earth angels involved with that, and there's a couple with a guilty conscience, at this time that I've come across, and I don't like that, because it wasn't supposed to go down like that. And holding my things hostage, whatever I have left in this world, hostage like that, it's not right, because of their lack to talk. And I tried to talk and communicate and send good energy, and they did some, but it's different whenever you actually talk, and that's a big issue. And I don't think a lot of them realize, by talking and opening up that throat chakra, that's going to heal a lot of things that we all went through, that were, where we were kept away from each other. And right now it's time for us to come together as a community, and forget all the things that they that are training try to tell us. It wasn't okay for us to be around each other and communicate and use our words, and because that's a bunch of BS. And I've been out here trying to do the best I can do, and I know I was an example, and not an example, but I was leading by example in a lot of ways, to show that we can talk about things amongst each other. But for whatever reason, those government agencies try to make us feel like we aren't allowed to, and that's a bunch of BS. And I'm not about that, and they know. There have been times I've gotten many transmissions of put this information out, but it wasn't the right time, and then something else came up, and but right now is the right time. And that's the thing, is because I've had a lot of things come across these since the month of July, that some people put me in a position, and it's like there was some aspects of someone and some people's projections wanting me to go at war with some people, that there's no reason for me to go at war with them, and that I don't like that energy. And that's why it's important for us earth angels to communicate with each other. And when those strong things happen and we work through all the stuff, it's like we feel each other's hurt, and it sucks. And then some of us can see each other's timelines, and things get really weird, but we have to talk about those things, because there ain't, any trained professional that deals with, mental stuff, and heart doctors don't, eventually heart doctors probably there's going to be some mix between psychological and heart doctors at some point, because the rhythms of the heart really affect the frequencies that are in the brain. And I can tell you that those are facts. And yeah, we already know that, but it's becoming more it's going to become more common, because the heart is not tied to the matrix, but the brain can be tied to the matrix, and so that's the weird stuff. And it's like everything has a script flip to it. So I just wanted to speak truth to that, because, you know, it's like, yeah, I know my energy can come off pretty intense to some people, but, you know, ultimately, I'm the nicest, most kind-hearted person you'll meet, and I don't like people feeling like they need to feel shame around me or things of that nature because of things that they did, because ultimately I do forgive, you know, the ones that have done wrong against me, because I don't know what else to do. Like, I could do many things, but I just choose not to, because that is not me. It's not authentic me. I don't like to fake it. It's not me. But I just wanted to clear that up, that, you know, I don't work for the CIA. You know, I work with God, and I'm an evangelist, and I do travel for work, and whatever I do have, you know, in that one location is all I have left. And so withholding that, you know, from me because of your lack to communicate with me more directly, and, you know, not using deceptive tactics to do so, you know, that doesn't work for me, and I'm not going to fight that, because there's an energy there that's wanting that to happen, and I will not give into that energy. And you have to see that. You have to realize that about the situation. And, you know, once you come forward and actually communicate respectfully, and, you know, give me dignity and respect in that situation, you know, the barriers will be lifted, and that's sometimes part of our work. And for me, it's been pretty easy, but I'm not supposed to be in that energy of spearheading and coming forward myself, and that's kind of been an energy recently, and it's not mine, it's yours. And I really wish that you would just, you know, do the right thing, you know, by me being another earth angel. And, you know, I picked up on some of the good vibes, but I'm telling you that there's something else there in the ethers of the situation, trying to make things harder than they need to be. And it you know, by speaking and you know, coming into communication, you know, with me, either via email or directly, you know, it's going to break, you know, barriers. It's going to heal a lot of other earth angel situations, because we aren't the only ones going through that. And I can tell you that, you know, from my own experiences and what I've seen in the patterns, you know, throughout my whole life. And you know, there's some artificial intelligence situations in there too, that, you know, there's technology being tested, and, you know, it still tries to bring some negative aspects, and it creates some negative frequencies, and you know, it plays tricks, you know, with the mind. And it's like, we know what we know, and you have to give into our intuition. But, you know, I took my chances and my risks, and try to create the good energy, and, you know, I know that you did as well. And but overall, this isn't about what I need to do, because, like I've said, I've done my work, and I've spearheaded it. And maybe you've been complacent and been just sitting there chilling, you know, and then I came across your path for a reason, and it was so apparently the situation can happen, I can speak truth to it, and we can heal the situation, not just for us, but for the others, you know, as well, that it might be mirroring to. And so I wanted to just speak truth to all of that, and that, you know, whatever lies and assumptions were made, I can tell you they're all false. And, you know, I do look forward to, you know, having a conversation in the future, very soon, actually, because there's apparently your own business barriers you have in place. But it's time for transparency, and I've already forgiven this situation. I just wanted to put that out there for whoever needs to hear it, and feel it and act upon it, because like I've said, I've spearheaded as much as I can and done the best I could with that, and now it's your turn, to step up, and that's just part of it. And just like I had to learn, there was just part of some things of the process. I had to learn those things hard, and it gets harder and harder for each generation that has to go through this stuff. And when we don't self-develop and there's that stagnant energy, it's okay to take breaks, but when you do it for so long and then we start coming into contact with each other out of surprise, God doesn't do that. The God I worship doesn't want us to have those fear-based relationships, and the God I worship doesn't want me to fear it, so but aside from that, we're grown adults, and no one's gonna die. I wanted to speak truth to the situation, and help mend that bridge that has some illusion of being broken. Can tell you it's not broken. It was built, and then it got a little scary, and that's just something I've experienced. With other Earth Angels, like we're intense, and I've had to draw back my energy quite a bit, and I don't have an issue with that. And it's very odd that happens that way with us, but it's apparently there's some purpose behind it, and this is the only way I know how I can speak truth to the purpose of it, and it's really just for us to heal the rest of us, and because we are a community that needs to come together and stick together more often than ever before. And like I said, we're allowed to fellowship, we're allowed to talk to each other, we're allowed to compliment each other, we're allowed to speak good things to each other, we're allowed to be nice to each other, we're allowed to look out for each other, in a transparent way. We don't have to use deceit, and hide things from each other, anymore. That's gone, and that's the truth. And I said what I said. So with that, I hope y'all have a blessed day, and this message gets to whoever needs to hear it, so you can make that contact with me in the physical. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I guess we'll just see what happens. Bye.